นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอปารุธาเดสังอมัตตสัทธาวราเอโสดวันทาบมุญจันทุสัทธังSo this is the observance night, and this is the last month of this winter's retreat. So I always regard this time, it's the best time of the year, in fact, for me, the English winter time. People are amazed when I say that. Because I do appreciate having the lay supporters come and make everything work smoothly and harmoniously like they do, and allowing us to practice, reflect, and develop, cultivate this path. Of course, what we do with these 3 months is up to the individual. You can't. One doesn't want to kind of be a shepherd or herd the cattle into the corral. Whether you use it skillfully or unskillfully, or practice or don't bother, whatever is up to you. Because this kind of practice is very much a rising up to the situation, to the moment. It's not like a training camp or something that you can kind of push people, give them the occasion, the opportunity, special conditions like winter's retreat, and see who rises up to use it, to develop, to cultivate. And in cultivating, or bhavana, this word bhavana is like a real determination, to develop this path. So it's it's a kind of, the more determined you are, the more you not through a sense of a kind of internal tyranny of duty or compulsion, but really willing to open, to look, to observe, really noticing the way it is, using every situation, every time of day, every condition for that opportunity. And of course, developing wisdom in the process, because wisdom, if we rise up to the situation, then then wisdom is there for us to use. If we just get lost in our own views and opinions, habits, tendencies, then we don't have wisdom to guide us. We have just our own doubts and fears and habits to get caught up into. So like the rat chewing through the wall, it's like you have to keep chewing until you break through. So determination isn't compulsion, it's like having that sense of direction. And then being aware, like it's always the here and now, paccuppanna, awakenness. So it's not asking for you to become something else than what you are right now, is it? It's not thinking you have to develop this and then from this stage to the next, and in order to get to the final place you have to go through a whole process of different stages. And that's the way the thinking mind operates. But if it's here and now, timeless, akalika dhamma, come and see, ehipassiko, is kind of an imperative or an invitation. And it leads onward, upanayaka dhamma. So it leads on, once you really recognize and trust that santitiko, akalika, ehipassiko, upanayaka, then this always, it leads onward, and in this sense of continuity, a continuation of awareness. It's not just dependent on winter retreats or special conditions or suitable situations. So the way, what I try to do is to be of benefit or help to you in some way, is to keep pointing at that. It's a sense of empowerment or encouragement. Try not to reinforce any sense of a self, a separate self. But whatever you think you are or believe you are, or your abilities or lack of them, or your goodness or badness or whatever you regard, however you regard yourself, I don't want to reinforce that as something to grasp and to operate from. So pointing to the paccuppanna, the akalika dhamma, here and now. So enlightenment is here and now, nibbana is here and now, liberation is here and now. And these are words, that not to memorize or to, analyze or try to figure out what they mean, because it's quite obvious. It's matter of you really awakening. What is awakeness here and now? And you try to figure it out, then you're lost again, because you don't have to analyze awakeness or figure out what it means. It's immanent, it's here and now. Apparent here and now, santitika dhamma, isn't it? So we chant this every day, and we say the words, but then we can say the words and still talk like it isn't here and now, that it's next year or tomorrow or next lifetime. You know, the way I hear some of you talking is really kind of discouraging, despairing sometimes, because you still think and believe your thoughts in the terms of time, sequences, and personality. You know, as if time was the reality and personality was what you really are. Your personality. But I know it's subtle, it's not, you know, even though it's simple and direct, it's in terms of the complexity of the conditioned realm, it's we are overwhelmed by the power of this realm that we're experiencing, by the sense world, the bodies we have, the mental equipment, the emotional habits, you know, so real for us, so urgent, so important, so strong that to break through that intimidation, that sense of urgency and importance, and the sense of me and mine and my views and my opinions and my feelings, and these are such strong conditions and so convincing, because the society we live in confirms all that. The whole milieu of that we're living in, other than the, you know, it is the belief in a self, an independent self, belief in time, believing that we are these physical forms. And so, you know, it is a challenge, I admit. I remember in the early years just thinking it would be impossible because of the power, the kind of overwhelming power of having a physical body. And having, you know, being sensitive to the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, this continuous impingement and power, and the forces of habit, the momentum of habit, the strong emotions, the fears and the rage and anger and lust, things like this that just seem so real, so me, so much of what I am, my needs, my feelings, my desires. Where the apparent here and now, Santittika Dhamma, doesn't, at first it's hardly noticeable, you know, we never notice it because we allow ourselves to be continuously overwhelmed by the five khandhas, the six ayatanas, the conditioned realm. We don't question it, we don't look into it, we merely get intimidated and operate from that in various deluded ways. So, you know, the awakened state, awakeness, and they wake up. It's not thinking about waking up or wondering what that means. It's a simple act of paying attention. And this is it's so simple. It's like that we don't. It doesn't seem enough. It's much more easy for us to believe in developing through time, through stages, through hard work, through all kinds of other things, to purify, to get rid of our defilements. I must purify myself by getting rid of my defilements and trying to cultivate good qualities and trying to practice meditation to get concentration and develop the necessary stages of concentration in order to realize or be free from these delusions in the future. And so what happens is, no matter how dedicated and inspired we might be in the beginning, it does get wearisome after so many years if you don't, if you haven't really awakened, or if you don't appreciate, don't understand, don't recognize. Because if just logically speaking, if you start from ignorance, what do you expect if you're operating from the self view in the monastic life, practicing meditation in order for you to be free in the future? That's starting with ignorance, and then the grasping that position, never questioning it, and then what is the result? After years of all kinds of meditation practice and that you might develop better habits is the most you can expect. But the liberation is not there, because the awakenedness is not. You grasp the ideas, the teachings of the Buddha, the party line, the views of others, the teachers, and the techniques, and you do all the hard work. So you are developing maybe good habits. And, it's certainly better than wasting your life in other things. But then the sadness that not recognizing, not really opening to Dhamma, not being liberated, not recognizing liberation. So this is where this determination is always this recollection, here and now, and putting yourself into this state of open attention. What is it that you can really know right now at this, from where you are sitting in the condition you're in? And so just that question kind of stops the thinking mind, doesn't it? What can you know right now? And so the thinking mind, well, then you're trying to think, what can I know right now? What does it mean? What can I know right now? And then you go around with that, and sitting and breathing and things like this, and I feel like this, and I don't understand what the heck that guy's talking about. Because that's the thinking process. But noticing, like when you stop the thinking process, when nothing comes up, the not knowing, there's a tension. Not being sure, not knowing, is like this. to stop that, just the flow of thought, the incessant connection of one thought with another, to really determine, to recognize the empty spaces, mind the gap, and things like this. To really have that strong determination, determine not to believe your thinking mind and ideas and views and opinions, so that your attention is on the emptiness of this moment, or the space, or when there's no thought, when your thinking mind stops, it's nonplussed, doesn't go, but there's still awareness. So the subject and object, this is a pure subject, this awareness. Your ego, the sense of yourself, is not, is a false subject. We tend to empower our egos with being the center and the subject. So it's always me and my feelings, me and my views, me and my practice, me and my problems. So that's not the real subject. Me, my personality is not the real subject, because in this moment, right now, if I stop creating myself, there is awareness. And the awareness is pure subjectivity that includes, but does not divide, and does not separate. It's not personal, it's not, not mine. Has no name. It's like nothing at all. Because for something to be, you have to give it a name, you have to give it a value, you have to quantify it and qualify it. So stopping the thinking mind isn't a matter of just stopping thinking as some kind of, I've got to stop thinking in order to practice, because then we grasp the idea. Ajahn Sumedho says, I've got to stop thinking, so you grasp that. But noticing, that's an actual moment of awakeness. Attention. In Italy, and they translate sati as attention. In Italian. That's quite a good translation, actually, even in English. And also, in this not knowing, it's not a matter of knowing everything. Like the universe is so vast. You hear, the modern science and technology has been able to explore the universe in ways that, in the past 10 years, that it would be unbelievable, even 10 years ago. These various telescopes and that get sent into outer space and seeing the extent of the universe and space and black holes, and it's so vast and mysterious, awesome, awe-inspiring. But it doesn't seem to end. Where does it end? And where did it begin? And it's just, these are the imponderable questions, because these come from a human mind that very much is limited to in its thinking process, in its ability to perceive. We have to develop technology that can support such curiosity. And then looking at nanotechnology, and this is and going smaller and smaller into minutiae. Then it goes vaster into outer space, and smaller and smaller, the two extremes. Where just recognize that apparent here and now, within this here and now, the awareness here and now, not trying to figure it all out or to be able to explain the infinite complexity of the conditioned realm and the magnificent, awesome universe that we experience. But from the quite ordinary present moment, the way it is, this we can actually know from wisdom, not from studying modern science or having developed a technology. Because this is what the Buddha was teaching 2,500 years ago, before telescopes were invented or anything like that. So the awakenness here and now, that is the only possibility, isn't it? Just think about it. It can't be in the future or developed through something, just through trying to get yourself to shut out things, to refine, to control the conditioned realm. So it's not a matter of refining or controlling anything, but of opening, receiving, paying attention, in other words. Awakening, Bhutto. So this is like really, it's a totally different thing than say the way we, than the conditioning of our minds will completely go against this. It doesn't believe it. It doubts endlessly. It creates more questions and doubts and skepticism about this. So this is why, like the empowering or encouraging that I'm trying to do is not to, to point to that. Just this much. Now I experience this as listening. There's this sense of listening, this perspective of listening, not for anything in particular, not aiming it at listening to any particular sound, or trying to take an interest in any sound, but in opening to a very receptive way, a kind of without focusing on anything in particular. So it has this sense of not focused on an object, but this kind of broad spectrum of just listening, attention, which includes everything in this moment. In terms of right now, each one of us, the subject, the pure subject, then that includes the things outside, the things around this form, the objects of the senses that impinge on it at this time, and the internal conditions, the emotions, the thoughts, memories, sensations within the body or the mind itself.
So that's what I mean. It includes. It's not trying to divide the outward from the inward, or me from you, or anything like that. It's not. That takes thought. That takes commitment to thinking, to analysis, to concepts and ideas. So when I talk about intuitive awareness, or sati sampajanya, apperception, the English word apperception, to perceive and apperceive, isn't it? Apperception implies this broad spectrum of intuition, awakening to this moment. So when I this very thought, this very sitting here on this high seat, this very thought, it really puts me into this moment, this awakened attention, and I experience it. It's like listening, hearing. And to nothing in particular. It's not like I'm trying to, what am I supposed to hear, or trying to find anything. It's just resting, opening. So when I talk about sound of silence, I know some of you try to hear it because you form an opinion about it. Because the very word sound makes you, your mind's obviously connecting it to a sound of to the perception of sound. When really it's apperception that I'm talking about, not perception. To perceive a sound as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, or that kind of thing. A high sound or low sound, or sound that comes and goes, isn't it? When we consciousness through our ears, olfactory consciousness is awareness of the melodious sounds, cacophonous noises, birds, wind, machinery. But behind all that, if all we notice is just the sound of the wind or the bird or the machinery or whatever, the airplane, then we don't notice the behind that sound, behind that noise. So putting ourselves into this reflective position of awareness is like letting go, not trying to get, not even, starting from where you are, if even confusion or disbelief or aversion to what I'm saying, just paying attention to that. And I'm not asking you to even believe me or like what I'm saying or approve or whatever, but whatever you're feeling, and you don't understand, and then think, what is this guy trying to say? Being aware that that's a thought. A doubt is like this. Or you can assume, I'm just not holy enough, or I'm not advanced enough to know what he's talking about. And no matter what you think you are, how you conceive yourself, be aware of that the awareness of yourself of how you create yourself as a person. Because you create that. If you think, I'm not advanced like Ajahn Sumedho, you're creating that thought in your mind. Being aware of that creation, not judging it, is not saying you shouldn't be thinking such thoughts, but it's going to the intuitive awareness, intuitive intelligence of thought arises and ceases. And if you notice, the self is a creation. In order for you to become a person, you have to think and believe what you're thinking and operate from those thoughts. This I know for sure. I've investigated this for many years now, so that there's no doubt about this. For me to become a person, I have to grasp my thoughts, my memories, views and opinions, identify with the body and the emotions, and then I become Ajahn Sumedho. Or I can even become a demon sometimes. Sometimes I'm not Ajahn Sumedho. I can become a raging demon. I can become a devada. I can become so good and so ethereal that I float up into the air as a personality. I'm quite capable of refinement, of coarseness, of all kinds of different emotional states. So I become whatever I think. If I grasp what I'm thinking and the condition, then I become like that. If the conditions for anger arise and I grasp that, then I become an angry person. If conditions for lust arise and I grasp that, then I become a randy old man. Just as simple as that. If I feel confused and depressed, then I become a confused and depressed man. But as soon as awareness of that, if the non-grasping, letting go of that, there's awareness, and that these various conditions, their nature's to cease. I'm not any of that. And yet if I never wake up and look at things as they really are, then I tend to create myself in the same old patterns. The danger, when you're getting old, is the patterns get more and more fixed. You do have a lot of leeway and malleability and that in youth. But when you're my age, the conditioned realm is pretty, pretty depressing if I'm just stuck in the limitation of my thoughts and views and opinions. My memories. Why do so many old people, talk about their youth and when I was a young man? So that's, we become what we grasp. So that's becoming, is out of ignorance and not being awake, but out of avijja, just operating from the conditioned realm, being caught in it, not having a clue how to transcend it or to understand it. But this is the way too, not to get rid of it. The conditioned realm, we're not condemning it. We're not trying to annihilate it, but to put it in the context where we're no longer limited and just habituated and addicted to it. So that the conditioned realm can be enjoyed and appreciated too. It's nothing wrong with it in itself, but it's the ignorance and attachment that lead to the suffering. Notice in the old age, sickness, death, this the older you get, the more these become real for you. Because it is, you're going, you're experiencing the aging process and the kind of weariness, life weariness of having been through so many things in one's lifetime. Just going, and if one doesn't have any way out of it, then you just got to repeat over and over the same things, and it gets very wearisome. There's why so much depression and despair and that in middle age, old age. But there is escape from the born, the created, the originated, the form. And there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unoriginated. So now contemplate, what is that right now? What is the unformed right now? And that's a question not to seek an answer through definition, but through reflection. What is the unborn right now? What isn't born right now? And then try not to figure it out. Trust just the intuition that's present. And then maybe, I don't know, comes up. Don't know. In terms of definition or concept. But don't know also, there's a knowing of not knowing. That not knowing, that don't know, that's a good reflection. Because wanting to know everything, have answers for every question, solutions to every problem is coming from delusion. I can only feel safe, only feel happy, only feel secure if I have clear answers to every question and solutions to every problem. I demand from life that kind of security. And then, if that's what you're doing, then you're in for a lot of misery. Because that's a hopeless demand. It's a demand for the impossible. We don't need to know everything and have answers for every question, but we can know at this very moment, right here and now, it's like this. We can recognize, we begin to be aware of these feelings that arise, the impulses, the restlessness, the doubt, the uncertainty, the despair, the opinion, the view, the sense of oneself. Like it's really a challenge in life to use this, developing this into the flow of life. So just like letting people, the doubts, the praise, the blame that come to us in our lives as individual human beings. So the kind of good luck, bad luck, praise, blame, good health, bad health, success, failure, the 8 worldly dhammas. The awareness is the refuge. So I've developed, when in this developing this and cultivating this awareness, then in situations, in difficult situations, emotional scenes, and I always see as opportunity to rest in this awareness, to be the receiver, but not the believer, the reactor, the defender, the person, the offended person, the threatened person, the frightened person, the disappointed person, the betrayed person. So how do you do that? How is that possible? And this is recognizing that the only possibility is in this awareness, the gate to the deathless, this point here and now, this attentiveness. Then that nada, the sound of silence, I notice that's immediately present when I'm in the awareness. That's to me the sign of awareness. Now that is a flowing sound. It's like a sound, isn't it? I don't know, but I wouldn't even call it a sound. Sound is too limited a definition, but it seems like it. But it is what it is. It's flowing. It has a continuity. So I float in it, like, just let myself be in this flow. It has a continuity. It carries sense of connecting and putting into perspective. And from this position, then I'm very clear what the impulse, the sense of me, or the feeling of anger or uncertainty or confusion. So to me it's very useful. Useful, whatever it is, it's useful. But it does bring up, it's like nothing, and we're really frightened of being nothing. There's such a resistance to extinction, isn't it? We really want to become an enlightened person. That inspires us, isn't it? To become somebody who's really enlightened, a great enlightened master. That's a very kind of, inspiring goal. But not being anything. And how many of you really get into a panic when you approach that? Not being anybody, nothing, but this. Now if you trust that, then the panic will go away. It's just the power of habit, really, of creating yourself. There can be a real fear of death. It's like dying. It's an internal dying that's going on. Your ego, your delusions, the self that you may have held on to and believed in all these years is dying. The self is dying. And so there can be some people going to, it's like falling down into a black hole or into an abyss. Can be very, for some people. But if you try, now we put our trust in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. These are refuges. So it's not a kind of self-extinction is not the goal, but awareness. Freedom from the limitation. As long as you're bound to any sense of yourself, through thought, through attachment of any kind, it is, there's always, along with that is always the fear of death. Because the self, the body, all these things, their nature's to die. They born and die. They begin and end. So the Lord of Death haunts us, follows us around. Fear of dying, fear of oblivion, fear of not being, and the death, and the subject of death is what happens when you die. Tell me, Ajahn Sumedho, when I die, what will become of me? If I'm not fully enlightened, will I, I've done a few bad things. Will I be reborn in something lower? Or they say, well, in the scriptures it says human birth is a rare one. It's like, it's possible, you have a possibility of being reborn as a human being as a turtle has, poking its head up through an inner tube or something in the Pacific Ocean. And that doesn't sound very, very likely, putting it in those kind of hyperbolic terms. So fear and death, they go together, fear of the unknown, death. As long as one is bound to the five khandhas, then there's always that fear. Is part of our life experience. It's around our necks. It haunts us. It stalks us. Because that's the result of that ignorance and attachment. The awakenedness then frees us from that, from death. But then the habits of the emotional habits we have, we're so bound into that they can be quite powerful. I remember going through that fear of dying. Like at Wat Pah Pong, when I was there with Ajahn Chah, I go through, I'm dying. I'm dying here in this place. Ajahn Chah, this monastic form, it's killing me. I feel I'm dying. I used to have this kind of inner scream, I want to live. It was really powerful, I remember. Kind of inner voice, a scream, an inner scream. I want to live. And then I look around and I think, boy, this is, the monks and the life and everything looked so dreary. And the possibilities I could think of for living it up outside, I could create all kinds of possible fantasies of really being free and expressing myself and do what I want and live it up, in every possible way. But somehow there was enough determination not to believe that, so I didn't. So, Ajahn Chah used to say, die before you die. And this is a very good reflection of the sense of dying. Because this is what death is, the end of that which began. Now, this awareness then doesn't begin or end. If you recognize, if you trust it, be this awareness, this awakeness. It's not something you create, and so it isn't a created condition that you have to keep recreating and believing in. It's awakening and realizing that's liberating from the illusion of death. I am this creature that will die. Or if I don't get what I want, I'll be a failure. I am, if I'm not a success, then I'm a failure. What people think of me, if they criticize me and blame me and frame me and abuse me and vilify me, and I'm not respected, and then I'll just be miserable. But if people, praise me, adore me, give me awards and titles and elevate me, exalt me, then I'll be happy. So then, the self, then what if I'm just nothing? What if nobody even notices me? I'm just a kind of bland, milquetoast kind of man. And the ego doesn't like that either, isn't it? One doesn't want to be kind of that kind. You want to be a kind of sparkling personality or desirable character or charming or appealing or something or other. Because the conditioned realm is like that. We're conditioned to want, to desire, to become, and to dread. Because whatever we desire and we dread, we won't get it. We dread failure, sickness, criticism, blame, weakness, and loss, and all that. So the only way out of that is not trying to control everything for one's own benefit as a person, but by liberating ourselves from the illusion. So this winter's retreat, this is encourage this kind of investigation. And really, this you have to know for yourself. I'm not trying to convert you or, convince you, but at least try to share what I've learned with you, because it is, this is something you can do. It's something realizable, something that is not beyond your ability. You might think it is, but don't believe it. Don't believe that thought. So I offer this as a reflection.